Japan, the ideal utopia. Once a country that led the world in game design. A country where children gamed as free as the wind. A country where shooting games blew through the hearts of all men. Hudson Soft, a developer ruled by the wisdom and charity of its two brilliant designers. A gaming empire watched over and blessed by the enchanting aura of its most powerful super player. Hudson, the seemingly prolific developer, suddenly pulled from the height of its realization to the empty abyss of historical relegation. How can a company with so much promise simply vanish from the gaming landscape? How could such prosperity be forgotten? The legend has been silenced for over 30 long years. And now, the mystery unfolds. Can you believe the PC Engine was an 8-bit game console? Look at these graphics. Sure, it was flanked by 16-bit GPUs, but at its heart, it was a successor and rival to Nintendo's Famicom, released back in 1987, 2 years before Sega's Mega Drive, developed by Hudson Soft in tandem with NEC. The PC Engine was actually the most forward-thinking, flexible, and expandable console in history. It was also the smallest. Compact in size and brilliant in layout, its initial design goal wasn't just improved graphics and sound, but long-term expansion and the ability to accept all manner of peripherals. It used hue cards, the size of a credit card, to hold the games. Hudson originally offered to sell this technology to Nintendo, but were turned down. So they turned to NEC, which would help manufacture a new console of Hudson's own design, the PC Engine. The PC Engine took Japan by storm, and in just its second year in 1988, even outsold Nintendo's mighty Famicom. By 1989, the year of the Mega Drive, Hudson owned 50% of new console sales in Japan. And despite Sega's entry into the market with the first true 16-bit system, Hudson continued to outsell both the Famicom and the Mega Drive until the release of the Super Famicom in 1990. So how did the 8-bit PC Engine compete against the big boys from Sega and Nintendo? Why was it often seen as a 16-bit system in itself? Contrary to popular opinion, and endless arguments by fans worldwide. There was no best or most powerful 16-bit console. Each of the big three were objectively best at certain things, easily worst at other things, and somewhere in between on everything else. The Mega Drive led the pack in raw performance and used it to compensate for other shortcomings, such as its lack of on-screen colors. The Super Famicom produced the most gorgeous pixel art, but often struggled to perform with its slower CPU. So where did the PC Engine lead the pack compared to its competitors? That beautiful behind, the I/O port, and its unprecedented expansion capability, turning this David into a Goliath. It not only provided full RGB video, bidirectional stereo audio, and power to any accessory, but a data link to the CPU and video encoder, turning any accessory into an extension of the console itself, coupled with its front HuCard port repurposed as a RAM expansion. The PC Engine became the most versatile console of any generation. It was the first home console to introduce CD-based games, and to wild success. Over half of PC Engine games, 370 of the console's near 700, were on CD. It used its HuCard port to slowly expand its RAM, first with the Super System card that quadrupled its working RAM, to the later arcade card that added a whopping 16 megabits, 8 times the amount of the previous card and half of what's inside SNK's monster Neo Geo. It produced games like the SNK ports of Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, and the World Hero series, so close to the Neo Geo originals, it was scary. It produced technological marvels like Ginga Fuke Densetsu Sapphire, simulating 3D effects with sprites that we wouldn't see for another generation of games, all on an 8-bit hybrid console released 2 years prior to the Mega Drive that was first meant to compete with the Famicom. Without a doubt, the flexibility of the PC Engine's design to become so much more than it initially was is a strength the other consoles could not match. It was a little marvel of engineering and a console that refused to die, constantly finding new ways to reinvent itself and rising like a phoenix from the ashes. It was the little engine that could, and it carried a big stick. The PC Engine catered to popular Japanese culture, its very first launch game being the arcade port Wonder Boy in Monsterland, only rebranded and all the characters replaced, with Bikurimon, a very popular anime, and Tasty Wafer with stickers to collect, being all the craze. Having a very close relationship with Nintendo and being so familiar with the Famicom, Hudson took what the country already loved about their favorite console and souped it up to create games closer to the arcade. It was a bridge between the third and fourth generations, when Japan was still in love with the Famicom, and the early 8-bitness of the PC Engine was part of what Japan embraced. The controllers were similar, using the same 2-button start-select layout, and the first controller didn't even have turbo switches. The more capable sound chip, now in stereo and with 6 channels, still used PSG and waveforms to generate the music and sound effects, giving them that telltale sound of the very best Famicom chiptunes. NEC was Japan's most respected electronics company, and Hudson, well known for its excellent games across many platforms. A big reason why the PC Engine sold 500,000 units within its very first month of launch. In Japan, compact was cool, shooting games were cool, RPGs were cool, quirky, cute, and unusual games were cool. So in Japan, the PC Engine was cool. It catered to the otaku who looked for anime and manga-based games, especially on the CD format, with plenty of storage for long, complex adventures and visual novels, allowing for voice acting and copious cutscenes. It even catered to the perverts, without the constraints of Nintendo's family-friendly image, producing licensed and unlicensed games you wouldn't see on any other home system. If you lived abroad and loved Japanese culture, the PC Engine was for you. In Japan, Hudson's console was cool, and in no other genre was this support for games Japan loved more obvious than shooting games. A darling of early 90s Japan, with a library of nearly 120 shooters, the PC Engine had no peer. Japan sure loved their shooting games, and the PC Engine delivered. Nearly 1/5 of the games on PC Engine were shooters, unheard of for any game console since. Every major STG developer, from Konami, Capcom, IREM, Taito, Namco, Toaplan, Compile, Naxat Soft, and many more, including Hudson Soft themselves, in total released dozens of new shooters per year. In arcades, at home, and in competition, the shooting genre in Japan was on fire, and due to its incredibly fast processor, the PC Engine became the system of choice. Hudson showed they were serious right out of the gate with a phenomenal early release of the arcade hit R-Type in 1988. So large, it had to be split onto 2 separate cue cards. Legendary developer Compile released Gunhead the following year, known in the West as Blazing Lasers, an instant classic that converted new console gamers into the genre in droves. Hudson Soft ran the Caravan shooting competitions every year, starting back in 1985 on the Famicom, where kids and young adults from all over Japan would come to compete, and in 1989 transitioned to the PC Engine with Gunhead. Wanting to capitalize on the game's style and popularity, Hudson commissioned its Soldier series of games, starting with Super Star Soldier, then Final Soldier, and culminating with one of the best shooting games on the system, Soldier Blade. They released special competition hue cards, not for sale, to be used for the events. But Hudson wasn't having all the fun, as third-party developer Naxat Soft joined in on the Caravan craze with their own Summer Carnival competition series and their own games for the PC Engine, both on CD, with the tremendous Nexer, along with Spriggan, developed for them by Compile, with some of the most impressive graphics on the system. They even developed a Caravan-only game for their competition, Alzadik, in 1992. Naksitsoft was a prolific publisher for the PC Engine, with over 50 games released under their label, including many more shooters like Burning Angels, W-Ring, and Koryun. Konami also had a close relationship with Hudson and ported 5 of their classic games. The original Gradius, a near-arcade perfect port of Gradius 2 on the Super CD, and HuCard ports of Salamander, Twinbee, and Parodius. IREM was in on the action right from the start, not only with R-Type, but also their classics Image Fight and Mr. Heli, as well as an exclusive game, Image Fight 2 for PC Engine CD. Arcade developer Toaplan ported most of their classics with Hellfire, Zero Wing, Kyukokyu Tiger, and the masterful Tatsujin. Taito released 4 Darius games, titling them Super Darius, including a mail-order-only special, Darius Alpha, of which only 800 copies were ever produced. PC Engine was also home to some of the best system exclusives, such as Gate and Lords of Thunder. Both with such great visuals and music, they became hopeful system sellers for a future overseas push. The arcade card Sapphire, the most coveted game for the platform, for its incredible visuals and ability to pull off graphical feats previously thought impossible on the system. Of course, there were tons of other great releases, many of which were system exclusives. There was the Download series, the Dragon Spirit games, Ray Zandberg, and Sidearms, wonderful ports of Raiden and Cotton Fantastic Night Dreams, a superior CD port of Forgotten Worlds, more cute-em-ups than you can shake a penguin at, unusual games like the Cho Aniki series and Hana Takadaka, and even ridiculous games like Toilet Kids, where flying wieners and poop were the order of the day. Even several RPGs and visual novels had shooters hidden inside as mini-games waiting to be discovered. PC Genjin, aka Bomb, the later mascot of the system, got his own pair of shooting games to get in on the action. If there weren't a grip of shooters on the PC Engine that you liked, it's probably because you didn't much like shooters. To even approach showing every release is a near impossible task. Given the popularity of Hudson's console in Japan, it quickly became and remained the go-to system for STG fans until the next generation, when the torch was passed to Sega Saturn. But in the annals of history, no other generation, no other console, no other platform came close to matching the shrine of shooters that lived on the PC Engine. It was a truly great time to be a fan. Japan loved the PC Engine for its size, its quirky, anything-goes games, its RPGs and visual novels, its endless array of unique accessories, and of course, its shooters. However, these same features that made it such a darling in Japan is also what sunk the PC Engine when it took the show on the road to the USA. What was cool in Japan was not in the West. It was late 80s America, home of Rambo and Transformers. Things like anime and manga were still obscure. We loved things with an edge, contact sports, comic books, and superheroes. Hudson and NEC had to take this very Japanese, very quirky console and library and make it cool for the American market. They manufactured a new chassis and layout for a larger and more aggressive-looking console that would be accepted by Western markets. The name had to be Extreme 2, Turbo Graphics 16. 16 to make sure everyone knew this was 16-bit. Explosions, physical shock. You won't believe how amazing this new system is. And yet, things didn't quite go as planned. Theories abound, from blaming the expensive CD attachment to parents being confused by the advertising and accessories. There's just one thing. They're mostly rubbish. Would you like to hear the big secret? Do you want to know what really happened? Are you ready for the truth?